Not all trucks are created equal, especially in Australia, where heat, dust, distance, and punishment expose every weakness. Some trucks here became legends, others became regrets. Today we're ranking them all, from the ones drivers swore they'd never touch again, to the unstoppable beasts that conquered the Outback. No nostalgia, no mercy, just raw performance, durability, and reputation. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which Australian trucks deserve respect and which ones deserve to be forgotten. This is the top 10 worst to absolute best. Number 10. Iveco Powerstar. The Iveco Powerstar arrived in Australia with bold promises. It looked like a long-nosed American bruiser but carried European DNA under the hood. On paper, it was supposed to be the perfect fusion, European efficiency, wrapped in an Australian-style bonneted truck. Lighter weight, better aerodynamics, modern electronics, and improved fuel economy. It was marketed as the future of long-haul trucking in a country that burns more diesel per kilometre than almost anywhere on Earth. But Australia is not a place where on paper matters. The moment trucks leave the showroom and enter the bush, reality begins. Australia's trucking environment is brutal in ways few countries can understand. Roads stretch for hundreds of kilometers with no services. Temperatures climb past 45 kurs. Dust infiltrates everything. Loads are massive. Breakdowns are not inconveniences, they are survival events. And this is where the Powerstar began to lose its shine. Drivers and fleet owners quickly discovered that while the Powerstar performed well on sealed highways and coastal routes, it struggled to earn trust in remote regions. The truck relied heavily on electronics. Sensors, control modules, and computer-managed systems worked beautifully in clean environments, but Outback dust and heat are merciless. Electrical faults became a recurring complaint. Cooling systems worked hard under heavy load. When something failed, it often required diagnostic tools rather than simple roadside fixes. In cities, this was fine. In the desert, it was terrifying. Australian truck culture values one thing above all else: survivability. Drivers want machines that can be repaired with tools, not laptops. They want steel frames thick enough to survive years of corrugations. They want engines that will keep pulling even when everything else is failing. The Powerstar felt delicate. It wasn't a bad truck. It hauled freight. It saved fuel. It looked impressive. But it didn't feel invincible. And in Australia, anything that isn't invincible becomes a liability. When drivers compared it to Kenworths, Macks, and Western Stars, machines built like industrial weapons, the Powerstar felt like a visitor from another philosophy. It belonged to a world where roads are smooth and service centers are always nearby. Australia is not that world. That's why the Powerstar lands at number 10. It tried to modernize Australian trucking, but Australia reminded everyone that here, only the toughest survive. Number 9. Quon. The Quon entered the Australian market with a reputation for refinement. Smooth drivetrains, efficient engines, comfortable cabs. In urban transport and regional logistics, it proved itself as a reliable, cost-effective machine. Fleets loved its predictable maintenance and respectable fuel economy. But Australian legends are not born in cities. They are forged in isolation. The Quon's design philosophy leaned toward efficiency rather than brute force. It was engineered for reliability under controlled conditions, distribution routes, metro freight, and highway runs where support is never far away. In those roles it shines. But when pushed into the realm of true Australian long-haul triple road trains, mining corridors, endless desert highways, it began to reveal its limits. Operators reported that the Quon's chassis and components felt lighter than its rivals. It lacked the sheer overbuilt presence of trucks designed specifically for punishment. Cooling systems required careful management in extreme heat. Heavy haul configurations were more limited compared to the giants of the industry. Drivers felt it. They described the Quon as capable but cautious. It did the job but never felt unstoppable. And in Australia, psychology matters. When you're hauling 100+ tons across empty land, confidence in your machine becomes survival. You need to believe your truck will not betray you. The Quon didn't inspire that kind of faith. It felt like a smart business tool, not a battle companion. Fleet managers loved its spreadsheets. Drivers wanted something that felt immortal. That's the gap. The Quon became popular in structured operations, but never earned the emotional loyalty that defines Australian trucking legends. It never became the truck people brag about. It never became the rig that drivers dream of owning. It earned respect, but not reverence. That's why it sits at number 9. Efficient, dependable, sensible. But Australia doesn't celebrate sensible. It celebrates machines that refuse to die. Number 8. Hino 700 series. The Hino 700 series is one of the most trusted trucks in Australia. You see it everywhere. Construction sites, regional highways, council fleets, and freight yards. It has built a reputation for reliability, low operating costs, and mechanical honesty. It starts, it runs, it works. And for many businesses, that's everything. Hino understands Australian conditions better than most global manufacturers. The 700 series was adapted for heat, dust, and distance. Its engines are known for longevity. Maintenance costs are predictable. Parts are widely available. In real-world terms, it is one of the safest business decisions in Australian transport. But greatness in Australia is not defined by safety. It's defined by scale. The 700 series was never meant to dominate the most extreme forms of haulage. It was built to be dependable across a wide range of jobs, not to drag triple road trains across empty horizons. It lacks the intimidating mass of bonneted giants. It doesn't roar with authority. It doesn't feel like it was forged for war. Drivers describe it as trustworthy but tame. It's the truck you choose when you want certainty, not when you want legend status. The 700 series thrives in structured environments. It excels in regional freight. It is loved by fleet operators. But when the road disappears into endless red dirt, drivers still look toward Kenworths, Macks, and Western Stars. Those are the machines built to face nothingness. The Hino 700 is a professional, not a conqueror. That's why it ranks at number 8, a brilliant worker, a dependable partner, but not the kind of truck that defines Australia's trucking mythology. Number 7. Freightliner Cascadia. The Freightliner Cascadia arrived in Australia, carrying America's most successful highway truck design. In the United States, the Cascadia dominates long-haul fleets. It's aerodynamic, efficient, comfortable, and technologically advanced. It represents modern trucking at its most refined. In Australia, it became an experiment. The Cascadia promised lower fuel costs, improved driver comfort, and smart fleet management. And in controlled conditions, it delivered. On sealed highways between major cities, the Cascadia felt like a spaceship compared to older rigs. Quiet cab, advanced safety systems, smooth ride, digital dashboards. For drivers accustomed to raw steel and mechanical noise, it felt like the future. But Australia's future still includes deserts. The Cascadia's weakness was the same as many modern trucks. Complexity. Advanced electronics brought convenience, but also vulnerability. Dust, heat, and vibration exposed every fragile component. When something failed, repairs often required specialized tools and software. That's acceptable in Europe, in America, in Japan. In Australia's remote interior, it's dangerous. Drivers reported that while the Cascadia was comfortable, it lacked the psychological toughness of traditional Australian spec trucks. It didn't feel like something built to survive abuse. It felt like something built to avoid it. The Cascadia became popular in structured fleets with predictable routes and strong service networks. But it never replaced the kings of the Outback. It proved that modern design can work here, but also proved that efficiency alone cannot replace over-engineering. The Cascadia is the most advanced truck in the bottom half of this ranking, but Australia still values muscle over microchips. That's why it stands at number 7, a glimpse of tomorrow. Still chasing the ghosts of yesterday's legends. Number 6, Isuzu F-series. The Isuzu F-series is one of the most common trucks on Australian roads. You see it everywhere. Delivery fleets, regional freight, construction supply chains, and municipal operations. It is the backbone of everyday transport. Quietly, consistently, relentlessly, it keeps the country moving. And that is exactly why it ranks here. The F-series was never designed to be a myth. It was designed to be dependable. Isuzu built its reputation in Australia on two principles: mechanical honesty and long-term reliability. These trucks start every morning. They tolerate abuse. They run for years with minimal drama. They don't demand attention. They simply work. For thousands of operators, the F-series is the smartest business decision they ever made. But legends in Australia are not measured by how many units are sold. They are measured by how far a truck can go when everything else fails. The F-series excels in structured environments. It thrives on predictable routes. It handles heat well. It tolerates dust. It keeps operating costs low. For regional and urban Australia, it is nearly unbeatable. But when the conversation turns to the extremes, the deep outback mining corridors, multi-trailer road trains, the F-series steps aside. It isn't built for that world. Its chassis, powertrain, and overall mass are optimized for efficiency and versatility, not domination. It can haul, it can work, but it doesn't feel immortal. It doesn't give drivers that sense of indestructibility that Australian trucking culture reveres. Drivers trust the F-series. They don't mythologize it. It's the truck you rely on for everyday survival, not for conquering nothingness. And that matters. In Australia, greatness is tied to isolation. The trucks that become legends are the ones that cross land where help does not exist. They are machines designed for environments that resemble other planets. The F-series is a master of civilization. But the trucks above it were built for the edge of the world. That's why it earns number 6. Not because it fails, but because it was never meant to become a legend. Number 5. Volvo FH16. The Volvo FH16 is the most technologically advanced heavy truck in Australian service. It represents the peak of European engineering. Immense horsepower, sophisticated drivetrains, intelligent safety systems, and a cabin that feels more like an aircraft cockpit than a truck. With engines reaching up to 750 horsepower, the FH16 is a monster in performance. It pulls hard. It climbs effortlessly. It maintains speed under massive loads. It is, without question, one of the most capable machines on Australian highways. And yet, it sits at number 5 because power is not the same as immortality. The FH16 is brilliant on sealed highways. It excels in modern freight corridors. It shines in operations where service networks are nearby and infrastructure exists. Drivers love its comfort. Fleet managers admire its efficiency. Engineers respect its innovation. But Australia's harshest environments expose a fundamental difference in philosophy. The FH16 is designed to be perfect. Australian legends are designed to be unkillable. The Volvo's reliance on electronics, sensors, and integrated systems makes it vulnerable in remote regions. When something fails, it often requires specialized diagnostics. In a city, that's trivial. In the desert, it's a nightmare. Drivers who haul into remote mining zones still gravitate towards simpler, heavier, more brutally engineered machines. Trucks that can be repaired with steel and sweat. The FH16 feels like a supercomputer on wheels. Australia still worships the hammer. The FH16 is a masterpiece of modern trucking. It is faster, cleaner, and smarter than almost anything else on the road. But in a land where distance itself is the enemy, simplicity becomes strength. That's why the FH16 stands at number 5, a technological titan, still learning how to survive the world's harshest proving ground. Number 4. Scania R-series. The Scania R-series is the European truck that came closest to earning Australian reverence. Scania didn't just export a truck to Australia. They adapted, they reinforced, they listened. The R-series that runs here is tougher than its global counterparts. Stronger cooling systems, heavier components, configurations tailored for distance and heat, and it worked. Drivers praise the R-series for its balance. It delivers power without brutality, efficiency without fragility, comfort without softness. It feels refined but not weak. Scania's engines are legendary for longevity. Many Australian operators report million-kilometer lifespans with minimal internal work. The drivetrains are smooth yet resilient. The cabins are comfortable without feeling insulated from reality. The R-Series feels confident. It doesn't roar like a Mack. It doesn't intimidate like a Kenworth. But it earns respect. In long-haul operations between major cities and regional hubs, the R-Series has become a serious competitor to traditional Australian giants. It handles heat. It tolerates distance. It performs under load. What holds it back from the top three is not capability, it is identity. Australian trucking culture is deeply emotional. It is built on silhouettes, long bonnets, steel frames, trucks that look like they belong in Mad Max. The R-Series still looks European. It feels modern, it feels intelligent, but it doesn't feel ancient. The trucks above it feel like they were carved from the land itself. The Scania R-Series is the most respected non-Australian style truck on this list. It proved that European engineering can survive here. It forced the industry to evolve, but Australia's heart still belongs to something heavier. That's why it stands at number 4, a bridge between worlds, strong enough to survive, still chasing the soul of a legend. Number 3, Western Star 4900. The Western Star 4900 is not just a truck, it is a statement. Long bonnet, towering exhaust stacks, massive frame rails. This machine looks like it was built to intimidate the horizon itself. In Australia, appearance matters because it reflects purpose. The 4900 doesn't pretend to be modern. It doesn't chase efficiency trends. It exists for one reason only: to survive punishment that would destroy ordinary machines. Western Star trucks have always carried a reputation for being truckers' trucks. They are overbuilt, simple, and brutally honest. Thick steel frames, heavy-duty axles, engines chosen not for efficiency, but for endurance. The 4900 was designed for the places where roads dissolve into dust and distance becomes psychological warfare. Drivers who run Western Stars often describe them as unbreakable, not because they never fail, but because when they do, they can be fixed. That distinction is everything in Australia. When a Western Star throws a problem in the middle of nowhere, it can often be solved with tools, experience, and stubbornness. The truck doesn't demand a computer. It doesn't lock itself down. It doesn't punish the driver for being far from civilization. It respects the environment it operates in. The 4900 became a favorite in heavy haul, mining support, and road train operations. It handles extreme weights without protest. It absorbs corrugations that would shake lesser trucks apart. Its frame feels like a bridge, not a vehicle, and yet it stands at number 3. Why? Because while it is brutally capable, it lacks the emotional legacy of the two machines above it. Western Star built a weapon. Mack and Kenworth built myths. The 4900 is admired, respected, trusted, but it does not carry the same historical gravity. It didn't shape Australian trucking culture, it joined it. Drivers love the 4900 because it works. They love the next two because they mean something. That's the difference between a great truck and a national icon. The Western Star 4900 is a beast, but Australia crowns kings, not beasts. Number 2, Mack Superliner. The Mack Superliner is not just respected, it is worshipped. For decades, this truck has symbolized what it means to haul in Australia. With its squared-off bonnet, massive bulldog badge, and indestructible stance, the Superliner looks like it was carved from steel rather than assembled. Mack's philosophy has always been simple: build it stronger than necessary. In Australia, that philosophy became gospel. The Superliner earned its reputation the hard way, through decades of abuse. These trucks hauled through the Nullarbor. They climbed mining roads, they dragged impossible loads, they ran until their odometers stopped making sense. Million-kilometer machines are common. 2-million-kilometer stories are not rare. Drivers tell legends about Superliners that survived floods, fires, and collisions. Trucks that worked for generations. Machines passed down like heirlooms, and they looked the part. Long nose, heavy steel, roaring engines. This was not transportation. This was power. The Superliner defined an era. It became the image of Australian trucking. When people imagine a road train crossing the Outback, that image usually includes a Mack. So why is it not number one? Because one truck didn't just define an era. One truck became Australia's trucking identity. Number 1. Kenworth T909, absolute best. The Kenworth T909 is not a truck. It is Australia's mechanical soul. Nothing on this continent commands respect like a T909 rolling across the horizon. Long bonnet, towering exhausts, endless chrome, a presence so dominant that even other trucks seem to move aside. The T909 is the ultimate evolution of Australian trucking philosophy. Overbuilt, oversized, unapologetic. Every part of the T909 exists to endure. The frame is thick enough to feel geological. The drivetrains are chosen for longevity, not novelty. The engine bays are spacious, so humans, not computers, can keep them alive. Cooling systems are designed for heat that would cripple ordinary machines. This truck was built for a land where distances are measured in days, not hours. The T909 didn't just survive Australia. It was designed for Australia. That's why it stands alone. Drivers don't just operate T909s. They bond with them. These trucks become homes, partners, companions across emptiness. They carry drivers through silence so vast it feels unreal. They cross terrain that would erase weaker machines, and they do it for decades. A 99 isn't retired, it's inherited. In a world where modern trucks feel disposable, the T909 feels eternal. It represents everything Australian trucking stands for. Endurance, independence, defiance against distance. It is not efficient in the modern sense. It is not subtle. It is not gentle. It is immortal. That's why the Kenworth T909 is not just the best Australian truck. It is the standard by which all others are judged. From worst to absolute best. Every road in Australia eventually leads to this machine. From breakdown nightmares to Outback legends, these trucks earned their place the hard way, through heat, dust, and endless miles of nothing. Some failed when it mattered most. Others became symbols of survival in one of the harshest driving environments on Earth. Rankings will always start arguments, and that's part of the fun. So drop your pick in the comments. Which truck deserves the crown? And which one got away too easy? If you love real machines, real stories, and real road legends, hit subscribe, because in Australia, only the strongest trucks survive.